Welcome, ladies and gentlemen. Adam Green here with NoMoreNews.org. Thank you for joining me. Today is Sunday, September 13th, 2020. Today we're going to be talking about the issue going on right now, biblical prophecy being fulfilled, one world government, one world religion being set up, Zionist end times prophecy. We have the Abraham Accords. The UAE peace deal is just the beginning, as you saw in the thumbnail. We've got a coin now from the people who brought you. From the people who brought you the Temple coin, connected with the Temple Institute. When Trump announced the embassy move, they now have the Abraham Accord coin, commemorative coin. We're going to be taking a close look into this. It's got, like the other coins, it's got the Arabic, the English, and the Hebrew. Donald Trump's signature, the sword being turned into a plowshare, swords. We're going to be getting into that. We're going to be talking about some of the latest news, going over, analyzing what's happening. So thank you for joining me. Please stick with me. This is incredibly important information. We have the Abraham Accords. What a name. Signed August 13th. Oh, wait.
To forge this tremendous agreement. It will be known as the Abraham Accord. And I'd like to ask our ambassador, David Friedman, to please explain why we're doing and calling it the Abraham Accord. David?
Thank you, Mr. President, and congratulations to you on brokering this historic peace agreement. Abraham, as many of you know, was the father of all three great faiths. He's referred to as Abraham in the Christian faith, Ibrahim in the Muslim faith, and Avraham in the Jewish faith. And no person better symbolizes the potential for unity among all these three great faiths.
This is the first step. People have been predicting this. This is the one world religion under the Moshiach. They want to get the Christians and Islam to be full compliant Noahides in the one world religion. They already consider Islam to be Noahide compatible. It's Christianity and the Trinity and Jesus that they consider idol worship, that they need to get rid of.
Than Abraham, and that's why this accord has been given that name.
It's a great thing. I wanted it to be.
Trump's like, it's a great thing. It's a great thing. Such a big deal. They're going to write a book in the Bible about me.
Called the Donald J. Trump Accord. But I didn't think the press would understand that, so I didn't do that.
That's a good one. That's probably a true joke, too, because, yeah, there's hand rubbing. He said he wanted to name it the Donald Trump Accord, but no, it's the uniting of the Abrahamic faiths for the one world religion and the rebuilding of the temple. Thus, why we see the temple coin putting out, or the temple coin producers with the Temple Institute putting out this new coin for this.
Avi, say a few words, please.
Thank you,
Avi.
Mr. President. It's really been the honor of my life to work in your administration.
I've done several videos on Avi Berkowitz. I'll link them below. He's Kushner's sidekick, best friend, mini-me, involved in the highest levels of the White House with Kushner.
I think this reaffirms
His uncle, or his cousin, was the director, the ultra-Orthodox director of AIPAC.
commitment to Israel, to
Went
the
to school in
stability of the
Jerusalem.
region. It's just a historic accomplishment, and it's peace. Peace is a beautiful thing, and it's something that everybody in the country should celebrate, I hope. And I'm just so honored to be here and serve in your administration.
Well, you've done a great job, and Jared has done a fantastic job. People don't really understand the things that he's able to do. He's done a fantastic job on this, and you and your team,
how awkward he looks.
nobody else could have done it. I don't think anybody else could have done it. Jared, say a few words, please.
Nobody else could have done it. They really hype him up. They try to hype him a little too hard. And then the combination of the press, like, giving him the evil vibe, and then them hyping him up as some genius. I'm just getting Moshiach Antichrist vibes. I still keep getting them more and more.
Thank you, Mr. President. And I would like to say that I want to thank the President for his leadership on this historic peace effort. The President, like with all things, urged us to take an untraditional approach. You can't solve problems that...
Mnuchin, Goldman Sachs, Skull and Bones Secret Society here,
have gone unsolved by doing it the same way that people before you have tried and failed. The President takes untraditional approaches. He does things in different ways, but he uses common sense, and he tries to unite people by focusing on common interests as opposed to allowing them to focus on their common grievances. And what happened was here is we were able to achieve results that others were not able to achieve, and this will advance the region, and this will advance the whole world. I would like to say to the people of the region, Muslims, Jews, Christians, that this does give hope, that the problems of the past do not condemn you to a future with conflict. There is a lot of hope and a lot of potential, and this will benefit you, and this will also benefit people here in America, because in America, we used to have a big dependency on the Middle East for gas and for oil. Thanks to your leadership, America is now energy independent. We no longer have that, but a lot of American soldiers have...
Trump made that point this week. I covered it. And then he says, we don't need their oil. The only reason we're in the Middle East is to protect Israel, because we have to protect Israel. So that's enough. A few of these other guys, I'm not sure who that is. I haven't watched this whole thing yet, but the rest of them give speeches. I'll put the link below, but we've got some other stuff to get to here. This is JNS. It's ultra-Zionist news. It says, the cultural genius of the Abraham Accord. And then the theme is that all of the rest of the countries are going to follow. Here's the Federalist. I'm sure it's Zionist owned. Why the Abraham Accord is a real step towards Middle East peace, a genuine hope for Israel and its neighbors, and is one of the greatest foreign policy achievements for the Trump administration. This is on September 11th, this article. We got Jerusalem Post. The children of Abraham reunited at last at the Israeli Emirati Business Forum. Their arm shake. Council on Foreign Relations. What's behind the new Israel-UAE peace deal? They basically endorse it, known as the Abraham Accords. Even the Washington Post, who is so virulently anti-Trump, says the haters won't admit it, but Trump's UAE-Israel diplomacy is an extraordinary triumph. Kushner took a historic flight from Israel to the UAE, and he went and visited the wall as well. Where's the flight? It showed he did a video really awkwardly from the airplane. I thought it was in this clip, but I guess it's not. And here's him at the wall before that. I mean, don't get it twisted. He's got more devotion and allegiance to this wall than any building in the United States. His loyalty lies on that Temple Mount with the temple. He's Chabad Lubavitch. Ivanka converted to Chabad Lubavitch. They call her Esther. You should see my videos talking about what that, calling her Esther, means for America.
I'm allowed to video. This is public.
He doesn't have this type of reverence for anything but the Rebbe's grave in New York, which he visited. And when he was a child, he visited the Rebbe. Got his dollar. Such a joke that Kushner and Netanyahu are involved with this supposed peace deal.
This is huge for us.
This is huge for us. Do you hear them?
He's in public.
Kushner looks up. I'm trying to get it. Okay, here we go. Jared Kushner with the Rebbe. All right. Very, very spiritual to the wall for Kushner. Kushner took the flight. Trump is being nominated for Nobel Peace Prizes. First, just for the UAE deal, and then now for Serbia and Kosovo. And I played the clip at the start of my last stream where the president of Serbia, Trump, was like, "Oh yeah, and you're gonna move your embassy to Jerusalem," and he was like, "What? I signed what?" And started flipping through the pages, and then did a shame face. So Trump, Nobel Peace Prize. They're talking about getting rid of the Nobel Peace Prize now because of that. It's funny, people used to think that the Peace Prize was a joke, Trump supporters, but then now when Trump gets nominated, they think it's good. It means something. We've got Trump expected to announce Bahrain will join UAE in normalizing ties with Israel. So they've really been hyping that Bahrain and Saudi Arabia and all these other, they're even saying that Iran and Palestine are going to come to the table and make a deal now. They are going full push, peace agreement, prophecy fulfilling. But the truth is that there is getting some people are dragging their feet still, it seems, but the time's not ready yet. AIPAC says, we urge other Arab states and the Palestinians to follow the UAE and Bahrain's lead in a hashtag a new era of peace, progress, and prosperity in the Middle East. The Palestinian leadership, in particular, should end its boycott of Israel and America and return to the negotiating table. So they are trying to bring them back to the table. That's the biggest lobby in the U.S. This is the crazy one. The original title of this video was Netanyahu is bringing peace for peace. But when it's just so funny, the idea of Netanyahu bringing peace on the way to bringing peace for peace. And this was translated initially in Hebrew. And we have the coin, the Abrahamic Accords. And this is amazing because I just watched a documentary. I've been talking about it, and we're going to play an excerpt from it here in a minute. But Netanyahu declaring peace prize. It's just like all of a sudden they just decided, let's all declare peace and sing Kumbaya. They are setting up the Zionist world government from Jerusalem with the Abrahamic Noahide technocracy control, using their puppet Trump. Putin's involved. China's involved. So the Abrahamic Accord, we're going to get more than that. For a peace deal, there's awful lot of weapon sales for this peace deal. Here's Haaretz. The real deal for Israel and the UAE is weapons. And the truth is that they've already been trading weapons and cybersecurity and tech and working covertly under the table. But an awful lot of weapons deals for this so-called peace deal. CNN says here, headline, Netanyahu slams reports of, quote, secret clause to sell UAE F-35s and drones as part of peace deal. So it was reported that there was weapons, and then Netanyahu is denying it. I wouldn't trust Netanyahu's denials. Just like the Israelis got caught spying on Trump with stingrays near the White House, and Trump said, oh, they didn't do it. I trust Netanyahu. Now, here is where it gets interesting. Israel 365 News. This is formerly my favorite Zionist end times prophecy news website, Breaking Israel News. The tweet from Netanyahu about bringing peace. Netanyahu will hand scepter to Messiah, the son of David. And the Jewish belief is that there's two Moshiachs. It proceeds with a Moshiach ben Joseph, who destroys the Amalekites and leads the ingathering of the exiles out of the diaspora to make Aliyah to Israel, and I guess build up Israel to a superpower. And then that leads to a war, Gog and Magog with the king, the anti-Messiah Armilus, and then the Moshiach ben David comes in and builds the temple and sets up the Messianic era. So this is from the top writer at this website here. The Shem Shmuel discusses the Jewish tradition of a two-stage process for Messiah. The first stage, referred to as Moshiach ben Yosef, is a practical, mundane process that includes the ingathering of exiles and building up of the land of Israel. The second stage is a miraculous process which includes the reestablishment of the Davidic dynasty and the completion of the third temple. This writer says, quote, "It is very clear that we see Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu that he is fulfilling his destiny as Moshiach ben Yosef." Christopher John Bjerknes has also been drawing comparisons, speculating that they may declare Netanyahu as Moshiach ben Yosef. And it's the reincarnation of Jonathan. The name Netanyahu, who cares what his name means? Compromise of the same letters. You know, they obsess with the gematria. The Rabbi Sudri stated that as prime minister, Netanyahu is performing all the practical functions expected of Moshiach ben Yosef. He's a former commando, personifies the biblical Jonathan. Just as Jonathan fought the Amalekites before David in the end of days, it will be the function of Moshiach ben Yosef. He also fights with Armilus, the head of Edom, of Esau, of Rome, of the Christian West, and the Amalekites. Battle before Moshiach ben David. The rabbi says Netanyahu is fulfilling this role by battling the enemies of Israel. When this battle is complete, he will pass the scepter to Moshiach ben David. When the Rebbe met Netanyahu several times early in his career, Netanyahu had a close relationship with Schneerson, the Rebbe Schneerson of Chabad Lubavitch, the seventh and final Rebbe, by the way. Netanyahu visited the Rebbe and requested a blessing. The Rebbe admonished Netanyahu, saying, "The Moshiach still hasn't come. Do something to hasten his coming." Rabbi Schneerson told Netanyahu that he would give the scepter to the Moshiach. Where I have that ready somewhere. Here it is.
בקרוב ממש זה יקר. מה שישראל לאחרונה נמצא מתקצו כמה עניינים. מה שרואה עוד, וגם משהו שעדיין משיח לבוא.
Moshiach has still not come. Do something to hasten this coming. We're planning false flag attacks. We're taking over their technocracy. We're spying on them. We're taking over their media. Hurry up, we want Moshiach now, he says. He's going to die soon. Bring Moshiach.
Can I reveal, Jared, how long we've known you?
Handing the keys to Moshiach.
He was never small. He was always big. He was always tall. But
the relationship between Israel and America is stronger than ever. And we really thank Prime Minister Netanyahu for his leadership and his partnership.
Thank you.
This is from my video, which we're going to watch the whole thing here in a second, at least some of it. But going back now, here is another website, End of Days. This is just a Jewish guy's blog, apparently, 2015. The Yikus of the Last Moshiach, Ben Yosef, Bibi Netanyahu. So making comparisons back in 2015 as well, saying he checks all of these things. He's from the house of Nathan, check. He is a Levi, check. The spiritual mantle of Mordecai, check. This is the story of the end time. Armilus is the anti-Messiah, represents Romulus, Rome, Christianity, Esau, Edom, just pure evil, basically, the anti-Messiah in Jewish eschatology. His inevitable destruction symbolizes the ultimate victory of good over evil in the Messianic age. This is when they're going to completely blot out the memory of Amalek, which is Esau, which is all the Gentiles in the Messianic age. Before they can rebuild their temple, this has to happen. And I'm going to have Bjerknes on Tuesday. We're going to get deep into that thread a little further. I'll give you a preview at the end of this video for that. According to Jewish Encyclopedia, Armilus is a king who will arise at the end of time. They also made comparisons to A.H. in World War II to Armilus as well. They called Germany Edom and Esau. Against the Messiah, Ben Joseph. and it will be conquered, must distress upon Israel. Takes the place, similar to Gog and Magog, this Sefer Zerubbabel, it's a battle, takes the place of Magog and defeats Messiah ben Joseph. The origin of this figure, said to be the offspring of Satan. They think all Gentiles have a guardian angel that is Satan. They think Satan is the Gentiles' guardian angel. That's what they believe. And they say the name came from Romulus in Rome, more connections with Edom, Esau, and Christianity. Now, this is the mini documentary. I've talked about it before. It's excellent. It's got almost 300,000 views. It came out just a couple weeks ago. It says, "We are living through the end times prophecies, the Abraham Accords." We're going to watch a little bit here.
Are you serious? What you're looking at, they're very serious in Israel. That is a silver half shekel. And it's in commemoration of President Donald Trump for recognizing Jerusalem as the capital of Israel.
That's the voice of Paul Begley. He works closely with ultra-Zionists who want to rebuild the temple. Yehuda Glick, the leading person from the Knesset that wants to rebuild the temple and involved with Likud and close to Netanyahu. Yehuda Glick, he works with him. I've got videos up on Begley on my backup channel.
This half shekel has King Cyrus in the background and President Trump in the forefront. And it is a unbelievable, it's the Cyrus Balfour Trump Declaration of 2018. This minted will be a half shekel made of silver. And this is what you have to pay. If you're going to the, whenever the temple is built, every male that comes to the temple is required to give a half shekel. That's the requirement. To dedicate the temple, every time you go to visit the temple, you're to give a half shekel. So they are going ahead now.
That's the guy making the coin that says that they're going to start with the Trump base to help rebuild the temple.
Minting a half shekel, putting this into in preparation of.
This was a few years ago, like 2017, I believe. Now, today, or this last couple weeks, we've got the Abraham Accord coin. I'm looking forward to when they put Kushner on a coin and call him Moshiach.
The temple for its dedication. You know really, it's coming, folks.
We're very happy to announce that the Mikdash Educational Center just produced a new Cyrus Trump temple coin. This special coin was produced and minted for.
This is from Alpha and Omega Productions, if you guys want to see the whole thing.
Temple. The temple belongs to everybody. To the Jewish
link in the
nation,
description.
But also to the whole world.
They say the temple belongs to everybody, but then if you look up the actual law about the temple, it says that the Gentiles won't be allowed inside the temple. Hasidic University, that's Chabad Lubavitch. Gentiles are not permitted to enter the temple area or certain areas inside the outer wall surrounding the temple area. So it's for everybody. You just can't go in there like we can. We are dealing with the supremacist temple cult.
So we're starting with the people of Israel.
Genocidal.
We're starting maybe with the Trump base, but I'm sure that maybe through Trump, everybody will understand not how Donald Trump is important, but how important Jerusalem and the temple is for the whole world.
They believe, see how important, they think that Israel, Jerusalem, the Temple Mount is not just the capital of Israel. They think it's the eternal capital of the whole world. The law must come forth from Zion.
Used for the rebuilding and education of the third temple. The temple belongs to everybody, to the Jewish nation, but also to the whole world. So we're starting with the people of Israel, we're starting maybe with the Trump base, but I'm sure that maybe through Trump, everybody will understand not how Donald Trump is important, but how important Jerusalem and the temple is for the whole world.
Animal sacrifices, yep, Marshall.
It was minted by the Institute for knowledge of the temple, and it has a picture of King Cyrus in the background, who was very influential in the rebuilding of the temple, the Second Temple. It has President Trump in the foreground, and on the back, it has a picture of the temple itself. We hope that the declarations of both Cyrus and Trump will lead to the rebuilding of the Third Temple.
When is the building?
Very soon. We've already started.
Yeah?
Yes.
They've already started. Look at how serious his face is. They've already started rebuilding the temple. They've also asked Putin to help. He says he's on board, basically.
And when it's due to be completed?
That depends on how fast the workers work and how quickly we can collect the money from the treasury.
$1 billion?
It's a huge step. It's not just a step. It's a huge step because it is a step that is bringing together the biblical narrative, the narrative of Esav and Yaakov, the two brothers that were split thousands of years ago, are now being brought together again. And this is all part of the biblical narrative. We believe that this is a huge step to the recognition of Jerusalem, of Israel, and the rebuilding of our Third Temple.
So Esau can persecute them, or he can worship them and serve them as Noahides. They believe Trump is the head of Edom, and that he's going to be the Edom that repents for destroying the temple and for Christianity in Rome, persecuting the Jews over the millennia, and that he will be the Noahide that served them, and everybody that refuses to do that will be destroyed. That's the Amalek that will be destroyed. And they believe Trump is the head of Edom, that he's going to help them repent and rebuild the temple.
The ruling Likud party has no better friend than President Trump's administration. But I wanted to know why the president's actions were being linked to biblical prophecy.
Here we have, after 70 years of the establishment of the state of the world, the strongest king of the world recognizing Jerusalem. I mean, it's
the strongest king in the world being who?
The strongest leader of the world today. His name is Donald Trump.
So do you believe that the American embassy opening here almost exactly at the same time as the 70th anniversary of Israel's independence was prophesied? Do you believe that?
It seems like that. Here we see a process, step by step, exactly as analyzed, prophesied by the prophets of the book.
Classical Jewish literature does not accept the notion of a second coming, and that is once the Messiah reveals himself, he will accomplish a designated mission of getting the Jews back to Israel, rebuilding the temple, and hopefully establishing world's peace. Now, Jesus, of course, was crucified. Jesus was murdered before he completed any of those things. And because of that, Christianity developed the idea of a second coming, that Jesus will come back and complete the mission, as they say, as far as normative Jewish theology is concerned.
I interviewed the guy that took this interview, Corey Gill-Schuster from the Ask Project. He does the man on the street interviews all throughout Israel and Palestine.
When the Messiah comes, he's going to get the job done, and he's not going to die and then come back.
Forging peace between Israelis and Palestinians may be the most difficult challenge of all. All prior administrations from President Lyndon Johnson have tried and bitterly failed. But I was not elected to do small things or shy away from big problems. It's been a long and very arduous process to arrive at this moment. On Sunday, I delivered to Prime Minister Netanyahu my vision for peace, prosperity, and a brighter future for the Israelis and Palestinians. A realistic two-state solution that resolves the risk of Palestinian statehood to Israel's security. Today, Israel has taken a giant step toward peace.
It's a great plan for Israel. It's a great plan for peace. Frankly, Mr. President, given all that you have already done for Israel, I'm not surprised. You have been the greatest friend that Israel has ever had in the White House.
This is a theme that repeats throughout the Torah, that they use, their stories teach them to use influential kings, Gentile leaders for their own means.
And I say this,
I believe it was Joseph and Daniel and Esther.
Objective that the American-Israeli alliance
Cyrus
has never been stronger. It's stronger than ever before under your leadership. And I look forward to working with you and your team to advance our common interests, security, prosperity, and peace with Israel's neighbors and for the region. And we can do it with you.
To give the Iranian people, the region, and the world the peace, security, and freedom they deserve.
Peace and security, peace and security. They both keep saying it. This gave me chills when I saw this.
For you yourselves are fully aware that the day of the Lord will come like a thief in the night. While people are saying, there is peace and security, then sudden destruction will come upon them as labor pains come upon a pregnant woman, and they will not escape.
Security, prosperity, and peace.
Jews, Christians, and Muslims, more than half of the population of the earth, and nearly all the people of the Middle East claim Abraham as their forefather in faith. And so he is. As we gather at this historic conference, I believe on that foundation of that Abrahamic tradition, we can find a firm foundation for a brighter future for all the peoples and all the faiths of the Middle East. It's actually happening, even as we speak. We need look no further than the old city of Jerusalem as an example of what could be true for the region as a whole. There we see the followers of the three great religions in constant contact with one another. We see each faith come to life in new and renewed ways every day. What we see there, we can achieve and live all across the Middle East. That's the vision that President Trump has. And that's the hope and aspiration of peace-loving people in our nation and around the world.
Peace and security.
And to all who ever doubt whether peace could at last come to the Middle East, I think we would do well, I believe with all my heart. We can claim that blessing anew for all the people of this region and the world, for ourselves and our posterity, if we claim it with faith and we claim it together. I believe God will surely bless us with peace. So let us begin. Thank you.
So you think that there could be some union between all the religions as part of this?
Absolutely. We already have unity, but everybody's afraid from the terrorists. So this is our job, to unify everybody to worship the only true living God in the third temple with all the nations that will worship God.
Well, today we usher in a new era of peace between Israel and the Arab world. I just came from an historic virtual conference between myself, President Donald Trump, and Crown Prince Mohammed bin Zayed of the United Arab Emirates,
where they agreed to finalize a historical peace agreement. Everybody said this would be impossible. They will exchange embassies and ambassadors and begin cooperation across the board and on a broad range of areas, including tourism, education, healthcare, trade, and security.
This is the greatest advancements toward peace between Israel and the Arab world in the last 26 years, and it marks the third formal peace between Israel and an Arab nation.
This deal is a significant step towards building a more peaceful, secure, and prosperous Middle East.
I believe there's a good chance we will soon see more Arab countries joining this expanding circle of peace.
Who wants to join Netanyahu's circle of peace? Marshall in the chat says that Trump and the power of America is forcing all the countries around the world, and through religion also, by duping the Christian Zionists. Trump's getting all the countries to accept Israel and to move their embassies.
I want to thank President Trump for his critical help in brokering this historic accord. And I want to thank him for his revolutionary vision for peace, which is the most realistic and important formula for peace in the region.
We are already discussing this with other nations, very powerful, very good nations, and people that want to see peace in the Middle East. And things are happening that I can't talk about, but they're extremely positive.
This is a future of peace, a future of security, and a future of prosperity.
Literally, peace and security. It says, the Lord will come like a thief in the night, while people are saying there is peace and security. Then suddenly destruction will come upon them as labor pains come upon a pregnant woman, and they will not escape. They believe that when Eve took the apple, that she was labored with birth pangs and menstruation. And we have Chabad Lubavitch, the birth pangs of Moshiach, connecting with when chaos will come faster and faster like labor pains before the end times with the Moshiach and the Messianic era. Peace and security, then suddenly destruction will come upon them. And they're following these prophecies like they always have, like a blueprint, self-fulfilling them, and then claiming, oh my gosh, it was a miracle, when they did everything, every step along the way to push it forward. The Zionist agenda. Anybody that isn't on board with this temple cult is considered Amalek, an anti-Semite, and they will stop at no means to destroy their enemies. They believe rise and kill first. They believe Esau hates them for no reason. All Gentiles are Esau. Remember, Esau, they believe, has a satanic guardian angel.
While people are saying, there is peace and security, then sudden destruction will come upon them as labor pains come upon a pregnant woman, and they will not escape.
It will be known as the Abraham Accord, and I'd like to ask our ambassador, David Friedman, to please explain why we're doing and calling it the Abraham Accord. David?
Thank you, Mr. President, and congratulations to you on brokering this historic peace agreement. Abraham, as many of you know, was the father of all three great faiths. He's referred to as Abraham in the Christian faith, Ibrahim in the Muslim faith, and Avraham in the Jewish faith. And no person...
They have all of the three names for Abraham on the new coin. Let's go back up to that coin real quick, because we already watched that part. Where's the coin? Here it is. And remember, this is the same people that had the temple coin that we just saw the video of. Temple shekel. Where is temple coin? All collection, sorry. The back doesn't work so well here. They put Nikki Haley on one, but they apparently removed her since then. So here's the Abraham Accord. There's the verse, and if one inclines toward peace, it inclines towards you. And then it's got a verse from the Quran and from the Torah, I believe. Look how it's like the weapon, the sword, will be turned into technology and chemistry and vaccines and satellites and coding and space and the bird and Saturn. Interesting that they've got Saturn at the top. I find that pretty interesting, consider there's lots of connections with Saturn to all of this. And he shall judge among the nations, shall beat their swords into plows and their spears into pruning hooks. This is Isaiah 2:4, all about the end times prophecy, where Ben-Gurion, the first prime minister of Israel, said that as prophesied by Isaiah, Israel will be the capital of the world, the shrine of the prophets, and what else was his exact thing? I should get it exactly if I'm going to say it. Oh, my Windows files are opening slow. Where? When I try to open my pictures, it doesn't come up. I double click on the photo and it just goes slow. This is what Ben Gurion said. And Chaim Weizmann, the first president of Israel, said the same thing. We're not ready for that yet. Ben Gurion, in Jerusalem, the United Nations will build a truly united nations will build a shrine of the prophets to serve the federated union of all continents. This will be the seat of the Supreme Court of mankind. That's the Sanhedrin Supreme Court under the Noahide laws. It settles all controversies among the federated continents, so the one world government, as prophesied by Isaiah. This is what Zionism means, is the fulfillment of end times, world domination, prophecy. Okay, so where are we? Still a little more with this doc. Gets better. I love the music in the background too. Just the tone makes it
better symbolizes the potential for unity among all these three great faiths than Abraham, and that's why this accord has been given that name.
It's a great thing. I wanted it to be called the Donald J. Trump Accord, but I didn't think the press would understand that, so I didn't do that.
Many Muslims, I'm talking about the high, let's say, rank or hierarchy in the Muslim religions, came to us and asked us, please build a temple. Why? Because the temple is for everybody, it's for the whole nations to prosper and thrive. So they came to us and asked, please build a temple. Now, the problem is with the radicals. The New World, without any, let's say, negative and forbidden feelings, like hatred, like revenge, like it will be only loving, appreciation.
No hate speech in the Messianic age. Only love and affinity for the chosen ones, and devotion, devoted servants. That's what the Kabbalist rabbi and Meditation for the Nations wanted.
Honoring. So this will be a new world, but not all order. It will be a new world, holistic. The holistic.
I believe Putin's Russian Orthodox Church is in on this. Trump and the evangelicals are obviously in on this. I believe the Pope and the Jesuits are all on board with this as well.
Way, the way God wants it.
Muslims will be welcome in Israel, and this will create better interfaith exchange. So this is a tremendous step forward for
interfaith. Interesting that he's talking about this big interfaith move when there already was an interfaith being set up. Look, this is September 2019, Times of Israel. UAE to open synagogue, part of interfaith compound in 2022. The black cubes, the 3 black cubes, next to a mosque and a church. The Abraham, Noahide, one world religion.
For peace in the world.
I guess the big thing, people don't understand that about me. I've gotten along. Remember when I was elected, they said the war will start with somebody within days, and I've kept us out of war. You look at North Korea, everybody said, including President Obama, that's the biggest problem. Everybody said you'd be at war. Well, we're not at war. You would have been at war if I wasn't elected, if it was somebody else. No, we're doing very well in the Middle East, and I'll tell you what, it's been an incredible thing. But no, it was tense, but the relationship has become a very good one between UAE and Israel, and also with other countries, many other countries. And I think you'll be seeing some very exciting things, including ultimately with the Palestinians. I think that's going to be happening at some point because it makes a lot of sense for them to let it happen. And I'll say this, and I can say it very publicly, that if I win the election, I will have a deal made with Iran within 30 days.
Iran and Palestine. He believes he's chosen to do this. The biblical book of Trump.
Somebody had to do it. I am the chosen one. Somebody had to do it.
We are about to turn this planet into a paradise.
This is from the Left Behind movie. The book's written by Tim LaHaye, the founder of the CMP, where Trump just went and spoke to the CMP a couple weeks ago. full of evangelical, Israel worshiping, Zionist temple cult fanatics.
Unimaginable only a few short weeks ago. 10 oasis regions, where each delegate is given complete control over his respective area. True global community, a true world of peace. This marks the beginning of our 7 years of peace. Of 7 years.
This marks the beginning of the rise of the Antichrist. He will control 10 kingdoms, which in turn will control the world. The Antichrist will sit in the temple of God
Looks
and
like
he will
Kushner.
declare to the whole world that he is God.
Upon each of you, I grant all the power and authority due to your new positions. You are now kings and queens in your own lands, bringing prosperity and plenty to your peoples. All in my name.
Time is short, folks. Time is short.
It's RSE.
And ultimately, this is all prophecy. It's all what we've been told in the Bible by the Lord. You know, who died for our sins and rose again to defeat death.
And that's RSE.
I pray
He
that
does,
many Jewish people.
Basically, all the clips in this is stuff that I've covered in other videos. They just put it together in a great sequence with some good B-roll and some good music to set the tone as well. So excellent job there. I'll put the link in the description below for that. But now let's move along to, here's a little compilation I made about Trump and all of his prophecy connections with the Marching to Zion church theme.
Don't forget, I don't know if you haven't watched the show, I happen to be Jewish by birth, and 75% of all...
This is on Newsmax. This is Wayne Allen Root. He's a Jew turned Christian, supposedly. He's a big endorser of Laura Loomer, and Newsmax is owned by, I believe, Paul Ruddy. He's a member of the Council for National Policy. I did a video 2 weeks ago getting into the CNP and their Zionist beliefs.
Jews vote Democrat, and they don't like Trump. And this is the greatest president for Jews and for Israel in the history of the world, not just America. Trump's the best president for Israel in the history of the world. And the Jewish people love him like he is the king of Israel. They love him like he is the second coming of God.
I am the chosen one. Chosen one. Chosen one. I am the chosen one. Chosen one. Chosen one.
Prerequisite. Trump, divinely sent to begin Messianic era. Doomsday prophet says the Bible predicted Trump. Trump's election heralds coming of Messiah, says Rabbi. Sarah Sanders, God wanted Donald Trump to become president. Pompeo says God may have sent Trump to save Israel from Iran. Ivanka nicknamed Jewish Queen Esther, who stopped annihilation of the Jews and led to the slaughter of the indigenous people in Persia, by Jared Kushner's synagogue. Michelle Bachmann says, exalts Trump, we will never see a more godly biblical president. Adelson hails Trump likely best president for Israel ever. Netanyahu, Israel has never had a better friend than Trump. Netanyahu's son, Trump, a rock star, best friend Jews ever had. It's like an end times movie. Israel loves Trump more than any other country, obviously. Trump brags over, he bragged at the Council for National Policy speech that if he ran in Israel, he would win 98% of the vote. This is a president that ran on an America First platform, bragging about being beloved by another country, just some tiny little country that they're all obsessed with because of end times, Abrahamic temple cult prophecies. Obsessed with bringing on the end of the world and Gog and Magog and the apocalypse and birth pangs of Moshiach. This is the people who are influencing decision makers, social engineers, influential positions all over the government and media. Trump Heights. He gives them the Golan Heights. They name the heights after him, the wall after him for the embassy. The Christian Zionists just worship biblical book of Trump. They compared him to Cyrus. They compare him to the Moshiach. But Kushner is also another figure that you can't ignore in all this. Here's Omri Soren. He's national security advisor for Ted Cruz, followed by Morton Klein, Dory Gold. So that's Zionist Organization America and JCPA, I believe. What is JCPA? Corey Dory. Yep, Dory Gold. Jerusalem Center for Public Affairs. Ground zero for the Temple Cult and the Temple Institute and the Sanhedrin and the Noahide Institute. Okay, he says, can I get a follow-up on this one? New York Times Politics tweeted back in 2017, for Kushner, Israel policy may be shaped by the personal. Yes, his Chabad Lubavitch Talmudic extremist supremacist theology. Can Jared Kushner, a 36-year-old real estate heir with no diplomatic experience, pull off peace in the Middle East? They are declaring victory. Wait, see this tweet? 25,000 likes. This website here I just found. Prince of Peace, Jared Kushner. MBZ and the Abraham Accords calling him the Prince of Peace. I did video, and then we got the coin, Interfaith Compound. So now I want to show a little bit of excerpts from my 2 Jared Kushner videos. This first one I made October 1st, 2018. It's my most popular video, No More News in No More News history, back 2 years ago when you could actually have a video go viral. But this is all about Kushner and really just the Moshiach in general and their end times prophecy for the Antichrist and stuff. So we're going to watch a little bit of this. Old intro.
You're watching No More News.
We've come a long way.
There have been at least a dozen Jewish rabbis that have said the Messiah is on earth now. He's been identified. He is soon going to make himself known.
Drum roll, please. We present the actual voice of Jared Kushner. He has been seen but not heard, silently watching President Trump sign orders. Jared Kushner is usually in the middle of the action, but publicly mum.
Well, thank you very much, Rudy.
Jared Kushner can speak. He actually talks. He says Trump's kept his promises. I want to play some of these historic clips, though. Jared Kushner, he speaks. He actually spoke from there at the dedication of the embassy that opens today. In fact, I hardly ever do this. I'm going to play Kushner twice. Wow, why hasn't Kushner been speaking? He looks pretty authoritative, looks strong, got a nice gleam in the eye. Sounds nervous, but hey, man, get over it, bro. You come off strong.
It's funny that he's saying he comes off strong because he came off incredibly weak in that speech, as he always does. Task was saving the world, Jared Kushner. Don't cross Jared Kushner. The downfall of Crown Prince Kushner.
In the Jewish mindset, for the Messiah to arrive, you can't think of him like we think of Messiah. We think of Messiah after the model of Jesus. He's the Son of God, divine birth, all of that. That's not the way the Jews look at the Messiah. They're looking for a king. They're looking for a political leader. As a matter of fact, Messiah to them means the anointed one, and it goes back to the ancient days when they would anoint a king and recognize him as this is the man that God sent.
Just got to say, what's up with Time Magazine and the Kushner magazine covers? The Good Son. And then there was this one too. The Family Business. The Unusual Power of Jared Kushner. Unusual Power. With that crazy photo. Creepy vibe. Jared Kushner's rise to unimaginable power. Jared Kushner's power expanding. Kushner expected to stay at power center. Jared Kushner is power behind the throne.
I'm not saying that they think he is the Messiah. What I actually think is that most of the rabbis there think he's John the Baptist, and the Messiah is about to appear. He's the forerunner. He's the guy that's going to start the message in the wilderness, and the Messiah is going to come in on his heels.
That's similar to the two Moshiachs, Moshiach ben Yosef and Ben David. The young Trump. President-in-law. This guy got Trump elected. Oh yeah, they credited him for that. Kushner won the White
elect
House.
Trump's secret weapon. Forbes magazine trumpeting on their cover. The man they credibly taking the Trump campaign, dealing with.
Who is the real president? Jared Kushner. Number one on Viacom-owned Comedy Central. Jared Kushner is America's deputy president. He went to Jared for everything. Quiet fixer, Jared Kushner. The Trump whisperer. Trump says that Jared Kushner has become more famous than him.
Despite having no experience in politics or government, Jared Kushner is said to be one of Donald Trump's most trusted advisors. Some analysts call him the Trump whisperer.
They too believe that we are in the end times. They too believe that the Messiah is about to appear. We would say the second coming is about to happen, but their Messiah is going to be a false Messiah. He's going to be the Antichrist, right?
.666 Fifth Avenue. He paid $1.8 billion for that. So 6 + 6 + 6, 18. It's a gematria, mystical thing. Jim Carrey draws him as 666 with the money in his eyes. Eerie comparisons to The Omen. This is from a show called Dig, all about blowing up the Dome of the Rock. And this is their little Moshiach figure. You could see here it had the red heifer there for the animal sacrifice, the Chabad Lubavitchers. This was all on television about rebuilding the temple. Predictive programming. The mark of 666.
And so we need the temple service. We need to get back into Israel, the Messiah. Now, why are they saying that? They have identified somebody. I mean, there could be a few rabbis there that think he's the Messiah. The smart ones in Israel are looking at him right now. They're saying he is God's, what we would call John the Baptist. He is God's messenger. When he takes over in January, there is a 5777 countdown to the appearance of the Messiah. And
this was all before Trump even, when he was just elected. He wasn't actually in office yet.
Something could happen overnight that could lead to the reconstruction of the temple.
A lot of the scholars that I've spoken to talk about how the building of this next temple is really going to bring peace to Israel and to bring safety from all her enemies. And so in that way, I can see that any maybe leader that would be raised up or somebody that would be able to bring the nations together, especially those who might align with Israel, that there might be some agreement that the temple could exist there and this person could be set up in the temple. What we know is that's probably going to be a false Messiah, because as we read in the book of Daniel, that there's a false Messiah that's going to make a peace agreement. And so that's the potential, is that something would be built for the false Messiah to set himself up.
And now Trump doing the peace deal. Or Kushner, I should say. Kushner says Trump deal of the century could be unveiled soon.
No administration over the course of 4 decades has been able to solve the Arab-Israeli conflict. Barrack says with a new set of leaders in the Arab world wanting a solution, the timing is right.
One of the crucial assignments Donald Trump already has in mind for his son-in-law, bringing peace to the Middle East. He'll make a deal with Israel that no one else can, You know, he's a natural, Trump told the Times of London.
President Trump declared that his son-in-law Jared Kushner could broker the toughest deal in the world, lasting peace between Israelis and Palestinians.
Jared Kushner plans to travel to the Mideast on Wednesday to jumpstart a U.S.-led peace effort.
So remember, this was 2 years ago. Since then, they've released the peace deal. The Palestinians didn't come to the table like we knew they wouldn't. They're still pushing for it though now, and they're going to try to build up Netanyahu's circle of peace. Remember, as he called it, where you go along with him, and then you get their technology and you're under their control. And but so they're still pushing the deal. They pretended like the peace deal was a big thing too, and now they're pretending that the UAE deal is like, you know, is the Palestinian deal. Like Trump's like, oh, and everybody said it was impossible to have peace with UAE and Israel. It's like, no, it was you sold us on the Palestine peace deal, and now you're just giving us this. But it's all, they're marching to Zion, and it's all leading to trying to fulfill the prophecies.
Kushner will spearhead the push for negotiations between the Israelis and Palestinians.
As President Trump's senior advisor, Jared Kushner is tasked with, among other things, trying to bring peace to the Middle East after defeating ISIS.
A White House official says Kushner, who joined Mr. Trump on his recent trip to the Middle East,
is headquartered, and he entered a yeshiva.
Want to tell the Rebbe the words of the new song that we're singing with Mashiach, right? So I'm just going to read him. Am Yisrael, have no fear. Mashiach will be here this year. We want Mashiach now. We don't want to wait. Okay?
Okay, so you guys can watch that whole thing. It's funny that when I made this video, I didn't know that Kushner had met the Rebbe before, but I predicted that very likely he could be in one of these crowds singing "We Want Moshiach Now," and now he's working with Netanyahu, and they're making it all come about. Now I want to shift gears a little bit to the top Zionist propagandist network, InfoWars, and Steve Pieczenik and his coverage of Jared Kushner. We saw a little bit of Alex Jones saying that Kushner looks strong. Jones also says that they're grooming him to be president. Steve Pieczenik, psychological operations, government, deep state, InfoWars guest, also says that he thinks Ivanka or Jared could follow after Pence. So here's Steve Pieczenik tweeting on August 17th. Great interview with Jared Kushner. I have been critical in the past. Oh, sure you have. But listen to his wisdom. Oh, guys, Jared Kushner, listen to his wisdom. The great Jared Kushner wisdom. And then he tags Trump, Candace Owens, Jim Jordan, Gateway Pundit, and Rand Paul. And I watched, look, here's my tweet. Peace plan scam. The Kushner-Netanyahu peace plan scam, to know the truth about their views about making deals with people in the land of Eretz Israel, the promised land that they believe is theirs. I'll link that below too as well. The Kushner-Netanyahu peace plan scam. So he's got this video from his YouTube channel. Peace in the Middle East, a family affair. We're going to play something from that, and then a little bit from Alex Jones shilling. So first, Pieczenik's background, his pedigree, his lineage, I find sort of interesting. What do you guys think about this?
For those of you who don't know me, I am Jewish. I came out of the diaspora. I basically am related to Rambam, and I was involved with, my family was involved with Begin and Jabotinsky. They had picked up Israeli compromises all over the United States.
So he's high-level psychological operations. They claimed he founded Delta Force. He's related to the Ramban, that's Maimonides. And then also his family was involved with Menachem Begin. That was the head of the Irgun terrorist group that bombed the King David Hotel. And also the Likud party. That's Netanyahu's party.
I am Jewish. I came out of the diaspora. I basically am related to Rambam, and I was involved with, my family was involved with Begin and Jabotinsky. They had picked up Israeli compromises all over the United States and in the world. What we have now is a real problem with Israel. And Israel had been placed on notice because our ambassador, the Jewish ambassador there, as well.
So this is his video about Mossad Epstein connections, and Steve Pieczenik, who will criticize Israel in some ways, but then puts the spin, the disinfo spin, to get you to still support Trump and Jared Kushner. And it's the same narrative that InfoWars has been doing all along as well, too.
Well, as Kushner have made a very clear statement. Israel, you're on notice. If you
Did you guys know that Kushner told Israel that they're on notice? This is on Info. Oh no, this is on his own YouTube channel, but he's always on InfoWars.
And Israel have been placed on notice because our ambassador, the Jewish ambassador there, as well as Kushner, have made a very clear statement. Israel, you're on notice. If you do not make a peace treaty with the Palestinians, there will be more serious repercussions than you imagine. The beginning of the takedown of your Mossad operatives.
So he's saying that Kushner is going to take down Mossad operatives and force Israel and Netanyahu into a peace deal. How stupid do you think people are, Pieczenik? Are you going senile to think that you can get away with these BS lies? Well, you're using Alex Jones and InfoWars to push this disinfo, so I guess you are somewhat successful.
Who were all present, and we will put them in prison, is just the beginning of what we can do to the future of Israel. Now, as a Jew, I am not proud what American Jews have done. For the most part, I find them to be arrogant, ignorant, totally devoid of any world culture, totally devoid of understanding what happened to us in the Holocaust.
Going full anti-Semite
totally devoid
here.
of understanding
Full
what Israel
Jew.
is really about. And it isn't the sanctimonious state that people think it is, because I was there in the 1980s when they created Hamas. I was there when the generals were terrorizing Palestinians and the Intifada was created. But let me quote to you my rabbi, and it turns out to be a family member, Soloveitchik, who said, in order to be a good Jew or a good human, you have to follow the righteous way and avoid evil. Thank you and good night.
Avoid evil. What does that mean? Can you elaborate? Does that mean avoiding Gentiles, according to your rabbi? So this is what he always does. He'll criticize. He'll drop some good red meat to get you to trust him, and then he puts the spin that, oh, you know, Kushner's gonna put Mossad agents in jail, and he's gonna force Netanyahu to make a peace deal, and he's putting them on notice. Yeah, I didn't. I highly doubt that Kushner is putting Israel on notice. Give me a break. So now this is from another one. This one is from Steve Pieczenik's video, Opus 232, Peace in the Middle East, a Family Affair. This is more shilling for Kushner.
Hi, this is Dr. Pieczenik, and today I want to congratulate President Trump, Jared Kushner, Bibi Netanyahu. As most of you know now, there has been a formal agreement between the United Arab Emirates.
As most of you know now, that was a hint to try to humble brag, I guess. It's not really a humble brag, but just bragging, saying he knew beforehand. He was also involved with the Oslo Accords. It's when a previous failed peace deal, basically.
Emirates and Israel to have coordination on the economic, political, psychological, and all other types of activities. This is a landmark agreement because this is the third agreement that we've had since Camp David, which was 76, and I was involved with it with Jimmy Carter, and then 96 we had an agreement with Jordan, and now we have an agreement with UAE.
Okay, I said Oslo. I meant Camp David is what he was involved with Carter.
What is UAE and who is UAE? The UAE is a compilation of 7 little small areas called emirates, and the leader of that is a sheikh or Prince Nahyan, who has made it a very modern country. As many of you know, United Arab Emirates airline flies all over the world. So from a perspective of progressiveness, UAE is far advanced in terms of the Middle East. It has a huge economy. It has a very vibrant gas and oil economy. Now, I consider this kind of treaty between Israel and Nahan, or the UAE, is what I would call a family affair. And why do I call that? Number one, 6 months ago, I predicted Jared Kushner's proposal for economic agreement in the Middle East would be successful. I also predicted that he was correct.
I wonder where he predicted that.
That the Palestinians on the West Bank and Gaza would be neglected or made irrelevant, which this agreement has created. In fact, the real Palestinian country is Jordan. It was created by the British, but when I visited...
That's a little Zionist propaganda. Jones likes to say this too. They call them the Fakistanians. They say Palestine never existed. They say that they showed up, the Zionist immigrants, refugees showed up there and made the desert bloom, and that there was nobody there. Really, there was a Nakba and ethnic cleansing and slaughter of villages with Western armed terrorists from Europe.
There years ago,
Eastern
you could
Europe.
see 80% of the people in Jordan are not real Jordanians, they are Palestinians. So in effect, what happened is the West Bank and Gaza has been negated as an issue, did not want to understand what Jared Kushner said, and is now probably dealing with Jordan. More importantly, this economic treaty allows Israel to move forward in other ways. What am I talking about? I've always believed that Saudi Arabia was a far closer friend to Israel than anybody believed. In fact, when I used to go to Saudi Arabia, I noticed there were 3 airports. One for commercial people, regular, ordinary passengers. The second one for the king and royalty of Saudi Arabia. And the third was the most important one, which was for special people, which translated meant Israel. Israel and Saudi Arabia have been together for well over 30 to 40 years, as has many of the other Muslim countries in the Middle East. What do I mean? Israel by now is considered one of the most formidable high-tech countries in the world. If you look at cybersecurity, probably 40 to 60% of all the companies, both on the American Stock Exchange, the Hong Kong Exchange, or in the Middle East, are controlled by Israelis who were trained in cybersecurity in Unit 8100. And what that unit did was to create young people and take them all the way through grammar school, high school, and college, and focus simply on high-tech consideration, in this case, cybersecurity. Now, with Bibi, I know very well that he was close to Jared Kushner. And in fact, he used to come to the Kushner family. He slept over there. So that relationship was really much more of a personal one than anybody understood. But I give credit to Kushner to the fact that he was also an Orthodox Jew. Like Jimmy Carter, who was a Baptist, both men of
Kushner is Chabad. He was Friends of Chabad, the club Friends of Chabad, the vice president at Harvard. They attend shul.
So serious religious consideration could make these kind of treaties because they believe that in God there would be peace. And so Jared Kushner has done an excellent job.
In God there would be peace. The Abrahamic Accords. This is the unification of the Noahide one world government they want to set up.
Congratulate Trump, congratulate Bibi.
And they think in terms of millennia, you know, not 10, 15, 100 years, a century. They've got the long-term agenda, and it's Jewish, Zionist, end times prophecy. Relentlessly, they will never give up.
And I want to thank all of you for this portion of listening to Peace on Earth. There is in Hebrew Shalom and in Arabic Salam. Take care.
I wonder what Steve Pieczenik has to do with all of Alex Jones's Zionist propaganda. I go, is it Roger Stone that's the influence? Is it Jerome Corsi? Is it Steve Pieczenik? What's the connection? Okay, this is the best one. This is where he predicts Kushner is going to be president.
But Trump doesn't say a word about his family. He doesn't have to. Melania, smart as a whip. Eric and Ivanka and all the other kids that he has, they're highly competent. They're taken care of. They know
Sure,
exactly.
you used to be a little bit down on Kushner, and I've been neutral on him, but you seem to like him more. Have you got more info?
He's been neutral on Kushner. That's the claim. We're going to fact check that. Here's Alex Jones shills for Jared Kushner. Just like he's been neutral on Israel, and I totally refuted that bold-faced, shameful lie. This is Alex Jones shilled for Jared Kushner, and this has been out since August 2019. There's been more since then. I need to do an update. This is Alex Jones's idea of being neutral on Kushner. And to be fair, he has criticized him on he called him autistic because he said the same phrase over like 15 times. Make sure, he kept saying. Kushner was like, we got to make sure. And Jones was like, either this is neurolinguistic programming or he's autistic, but this is neutral. He's been pro Kushner.
Jared Kushner can speak. He actually talks. He says Trump's kept his promises. I want to play some of these historic clips, though. Jared Kushner, he speaks. He actually spoke from there at the dedication of the embassy that opens today. I can show you some of those photos. Put them up on screen. They're on Infowars.com, Newswars.com. There's a good one there with Ivanka Trump. Embassy, United States of America, Jerusalem, Israel. Donald J. Trump, president.
Funny that he's on the Drudge Report because it said that Matt Drudge was like Jared Kushner's publicist, and they are extremely close. Just like Rupert Murdoch, the owner of Fox News, is Kushner's mentor, and his wife hooked up Ivanka and Jared Kushner, and he's his mentor. Rupert Murdoch's Kushner's mentor, and they speak on the phone almost every day.
Michael J. Pence, vice president. In fact, I hardly ever do this. I'm going to play Kushner twice. Wow, why hasn't Kushner been speaking? He looks pretty authoritative, looks strong, got a nice gleam in the eye. Sounds nervous, but hey, man, get over it, bro. You come off strong. Hold on, let's talk about this more when we come back, because I don't want to run Jared down. He looks like a smart guy, good-looking guy. Clearly they're grooming him to be president. Great. Clearly they're grooming him to be president. Great.
Clearly they're grooming him to be president. Great. And this is CNN. Ivanka Trump husband agreed she'd be the one to run for president, book says. They've been floating the idea that Ivanka or Trump, Don Jr. is going to run, or that even that Trump is going to not leave office and try to stay in extra terms, which he's floated that idea many times as well.
I don't want to run Jared down. He looks like a smart guy, good-looking guy. Clearly they're grooming him to be president. Great. Clearly they're grooming him to be president. Great. But Jared...
Is Kushner a fuckface? Jared Kushner, a giant piece of shit.
You know, I don't really. I mean, they say
He's a fuckface, right?
They say Kushner runs a lot of stuff, and I don't know if that's even the truth.
Does Kushner have Israel's? Is he like a fucking Israeli agent in the White House? Does he represent their needs?
I think
what is he doing?
I think the U.S. and Israel have a lot of the same interests, and where those work, we can work together.
State of Israel.
But I think Jared Kushner got the Saudi Arabians to stop funding Al Qaeda and ISIS, so we could get rid of them.
Interesting.
And I think Kushner, Netanyahu likes him. And all I'm saying is, every leftist publication.
Hey guys, Netanyahu likes Kushner. You know, he's got to be for real if Netanyahu likes him. You know what I mean?
And globalist publication says that Kushner sucks and that Benjamin Netanyahu sucks. I'm not getting involved in Israel and their politics. Jared Kushner announced he was going to Bilderberg. Then I started getting flooded with calls and emails to the office. Oh my God, Trump sold us out. Kushner's going to Bilderberg. I'm going to say this. I'm going to be very clear. I would go to Bilderberg if they asked me to go. What matters is what I stand for. Going to a meeting is not being on the agenda. And now they've got to have a representative of Trump inside their confab is us seizing the flag. At least at the level of my vision, I see this in the continuum of what Trump's doing and what we're doing, what I'm doing, as victory. We're taking over their end zone.
Hear that, guys. InfoWars and Jared Kushner have taken over Bilderberg Group. That's the spin he puts when Pompeo and Kushner go to Bilderberg.
We're taking over their Reich Chancellery. We're taking over their command bases. We're on the march. The empire is on the run.
Just like Jones said that the Rothschilds were bringing wealth back to the people, his CIA source told him the Rothschilds are backing Trump and bringing wealth back to the people.
Now, if I see anything out of Kushner or Trump that's pissing on our sovereignty or our freedom, our values,
like the executive order where we can't criticize Israel, like where we can't boycott Israel, like selling out our technology and allowing them to spy,
I'll turn on them like a pit bull on PCP. But let me give you a little news flash. It ain't going to happen. It's not, folks. It's not. That support, because he's been trying hard and been delivering and doing things that are biblical, in my view.
Trump is doing things that are biblical. Like Alex Jones had on Jerome Corsi, who works for, there's a whole Alex Jones Loves Benjamin Netanyahu compilation too. Check out the InfoWars Expose playlist for more videos of Jones exposing his, exposing himself with his big blubbery mouth. Now back to Pieczenik here.
Well, let me put it this way. I'm always an individual willing to learn. I'm not perfect. I read Kushner in a certain way as an Orthodox Jew who came out of New Jersey, whose father I knew about had been in prison. However, Jared came to the forefront over the past couple of years, and I had to change my opinion.
They had this photo of Jared Kushner, looks like ready to go, like they knew the question was about Kushner.
On the simple notion that Jared understood a dynamic which we've been in the Middle East strategies never used. And I can say that. I mean, I've been involved in Camp David.
You were the only other person. In fact, I should have said this at the start of the interview. You were credited as the head of psychological operations State Department at getting the Camp David Accords done, the only successful peace deal ever. And now you see Trump getting it with the UAE and Israel, with Serbia and Bosnia, with all these big deals.
Bahrain and Oman, and I give credit to Trump and Kushner and O'Brien because Kushner came up with a concept, a sophisticated concept, where he said 3 years ago, we're going to use the economy, stupid. And basically he said one other thing that we at the time could not do. And he said, really, I'm not interested in what the Palestinians have to say. If they don't understand this business deal, too bad for them.
And you said that last time, and now...
If the Palestinians don't want to make the deal, too bad for them. That's what he just said. He also says in this this talk that he's not a fan of the Constitution. Steve Pieczenik on InfoWars.
Now the Arab League has come out and said, tell the Palestinians stop trying to control everybody as the little victims. Instead, they're just making deals with the actual powers that'll help everyone.
Yeah, who's the people that are controlling everyone while playing the victims? Yeah, I don't think it's the Palestinians, Alex. I could think of another tribe that might fit that those attributes.
Everybody.
Correct. And ironically, the Palestinians are known as the Jews of the Middle East. So eventually, I predict they will go back to deal with Kushner. Kushner will be successful with Saudi Arabia and Israel. An amazing treaty because they're already there.
And shouldn't the average liberal love Trump getting us out all these wars and all these peace deals? This is ridiculous.
It will go on to Pence. From Pence, it will go on to Ivanka or Jared Kushner. And we will remain a viable country and a great country. I have no fear.
So well, we're almost out of time. Thanks for joining us. Let's come back next time and talk about the future as well. StevePieczenik.com. Amazing hour.
There you heard it. Jared Kushner is going to follow Pence. I made a video, I guess it was months ago when it was trending for like 25th Amendment and for Trump to be impeached. And I said, oh, what could happen? Pence and Kushner. And now the man himself, Steve Pieczenik, predicting Kushner, Ivanka presidency.
It will go on to Pence. From Pence, it will go on to Ivanka or Jared Kushner. And we will remain a viable country and a great country. I have no fear.
So well, we're almost out of time. Thanks for joining us. Let's come back next time and talk about the future as well. StevePieczenik.com.
This is who we're trusting that says that Kushner is putting Israel on notice and that he's going to be president after Pence and give him credit for all his genius for these peace deals. And this is Steve Pieczenik's background: psychological operations, takedowns of governments, coups.
For those of you who don't know me, I am Jewish. I came out of the diaspora. I basically am related to Rambam, and I was involved with, my family was involved with Begin and Jabotinsky. They had picked up Israel.
Very interesting. Steve Pieczenik. Okay, that is all we have from Steve. It's basically go along with Israel, go along with the Zionist agenda, worship us or be destroyed. Go along with our Zionist agenda. You're Amalek. You're a threat to our self-determination. They're going to make it, they're pushing with the anti-Semitism czar and this International Holocaust Remembrance Alliance definition that it's going to be illegal to criticize them in any shape or form. The UAE signed a massive $3.4 billion deal with China, and that isn't a surprise. This is April 2019. This is part of the Belt and Road Initiative, where Israel and China and Russia are setting up the new Silk Road, where Israel is going to be at the hub of it and the technological base and the center of the trade routes, the continents. Congress is probing the sale. Sheldon Adelson, who was angry that Trump didn't move the embassy right away. They say the embassy was a big step towards rebuilding the temple. Jerome Corsi from Zionist WorldNet Daily was on InfoWars saying he got text messages from top Israeli above Mossad intelligence where they were going to nominate Trump for the Peace Prize for taking the biblical step of moving the embassy. Adelson was angry Trump didn't move it right away. Then he offered to pay for it. Now what they're doing is Sheldon Adelson is buying the ambassador's residence in Israel, the biggest sale, $80 million in Israeli history for real estate, to cement Trump's controversial move of the embassy from Tel Aviv or Jerusalem. State Department informally confirmed to Congress that Adelson is the buyer. The Trump administration appears to have been in a rush to sell the property ahead of the November presidential election, both as a gesture to Trump's pro-Israel evangelical Christian base and to complicate any attempts to move the embassy back to Tel Aviv if he is not reelected. So they're trying to get it set in stone. The State Department aide said the biggest question now is how much rent will be paid by U.S. taxpayers while Friedman, the ambassador Friedman, remains at the property. And I think that's where we're going to wrap it up. We've got a few more Abraham Accords, the interface, Jared Kushner's deal, shilling for Kushner, UAE. Okay, that's all we're going to do today, guys. Thanks, everybody, for watching. The Abraham Accords. Let me know what you guys think in the comments below. Like, share, subscribe. Try to thumbs up. Helps the algorithm. Let me empty out the chest for everybody watching on DLive. Bookmark. Put your email address in for the subscribe to nomorenews.org. Pick up a t-shirt, high quality, made in America. They're selling out quick in some sizes. Get your size before they're gone. Fox News, conversation starter, helps spread the message. I also got the, fell back. Oh, here it is. It's in my lap. The Trump, They Live, the Israel eyes, an Israeli flag on the lapel. Help spread the message, help share awareness. Let's empty the chest. Follow on DLive, on BitChute, brand new tube. Stay tuned for Tuesday. We're going to get deep into some of their disturbing beliefs about particular how they believe that all Gentiles have a guardian angel that is Satan. Satanic guardian angel. That's what they believe. All right. Rewards are distributing. Thanks, everybody, for watching on DLive as well on BitChute. And I will see you guys again. Thanks to the mods. Thanks, everybody, for sharing. Thanks for supporting. Truly disturbing stuff. It's really all playing out like an end times Zionist prophecy dystopian movie. And I think Trump's going to win, and I think they're going to keep marching forward with their agenda. So we will continue to cover it here at No More News. Couldn't do it without your support, though. It's a group effort. Thanks to everybody that has supported. If you can't financially, I understand. If you can, it's I can't do it without you. But if you can't, sharing is even more important with all the algorithm suppression. So thank you all. Have a nice night, and I will see you again very soon. Thank you, mods. Thank you, everyone, for watching. Stay tuned. Things are getting crazy.